the people who do have the means to buy something and don't, what previous uh, attitudes to money are they carrying over from their previous life that they can't shake, and why? And is it how is it affecting their life?
There's a book called, I might butcher it, Money Mindset, or the Mindset of Money. Um, but it's called something like that, Money Mindset or something like that. Somebody look it up. Anyways, but the premise of the book is talking about how your view of money is shaped as a kid and how people carry that throughout their entire lives. And one of the examples I believe he uses, like Trump. Like Trump's baseline and view of money, like it's just completely different from just because of the way he was raised. So like there's a baseline there to him that is it would be somebody's dream, right? It's his baseline. And so from there he goes and he accumulates a mass amount of wealth. Well, you might have somebody if you grew up in the shanty town of Jamaica and you're used to hearing, we can't afford that, we can't afford that, that's for rich people only, we can't afford that. Hey, make sure that this package of ketchup needs to last you the entire week for whatever. Like when you have that type of upbringing and it doesn't get worked on, then you can go through life with a what is it? A scarcity mindset where there's not going to be enough of everything. There's not going to be enough. When you have that type of mindset, it's hard to shoot for enough because your baseline is there's never going to be enough. If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense, and I guess the question is how do we shake it, and when do we shake it, and how do we should we shake it at all? Like I can tell you about myself is that growing up, I always, and I actually heard a lot of people doing this, especially my age when Chipotle was coming up. I was in high school. So a lot of people my age measure everything in how many Chipotle burritos something costs. Like a fancy dinner at a steakhouse, like business center, you know
uh,
how these things go. And it's like by the end of the night, you're spending minimum like 250, $300, again minimum, because a steak is 125 on its own. And um so I'm like, man, this dinner would have been 20 burritos, or like I could have eaten 20 meals. and
yeah.
and that I will, fortunately that's kind of fading. And then the next step was I was an ice hockey referee from the age of 13 to 22. So about 10 years I was an ice hockey referee, which is a blue collar job. It's hard, but it also takes a lot of mental. Not that like other blue collar jobs, in some cases it's both physically and mentally challenging. But the point is that the average pay you would get per game, which would last about an hour and a half, was $30 to $50. And towards the end of my career, it's about $50 a game. So I started looking at everything at how many games of work something is. Like if it's $1,000, that means I have to referee 20 games to earn that thousand, and we're not even including taxes or anything like that. So spending, uh, like if I had, let's say $100, okay, something costs $100. Let's say an Uber, and let's say an Uber Black, right? That I actually want to discuss that with you. But an Uber Black is going to cost you an extra $80. And so you can, I think, even though I haven't refereed in 12 years, I think to myself, am I going to spend effectively 3 hours of intense mental and physical labor to upgrade my Uber? That still goes through my mind today.
What was your how was money discussed in your household growing up?
Money was, there's never enough money. I would put it that way. And is always more about how much more work can be done to earn more without a necessarily a particular goal to earn it. It's just about accumulating more. I think such that in case of emergency, we would be set, more of a security thing. And my family coming from the Soviet Union, uh, there was definitely scarcity built into that.
How do you think, like, we're first generation, right? Your parents came from the Soviet Union. My parents came from Jamaica. Um, is there a difference in the mindset of money with your standard immigrant, somebody who came here with nothing essentially, versus an American who grew up here?
I think there's a huge difference. Immigrants are always saving, 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 trying to earn more, spending more time to earn more, spending more time at work. And that's part of the reason they're more successful, because they're not used to a social safety net, and they have a work ethic, and they they don't want themselves or their family to be live in squalor, which is possible. In America, we do have social safety nets, and I think we're more likely to just let things be as they may, and kind of be lazy about it. I think there is a big difference in immigrant mindset, but with that comes the cost of not really enjoying yourself while you're trying to keep earning.
I agree with that. And to add to it, I think that my college professor, I believe he was African or his parents were African. And he said a point that always stuck with me, where the people, he said, the people who immigrate or who migrate to America have a higher likelihood to be motivated. Not everybody who comes over here is motivated, but they have a higher likelihood, because this is somebody who, in a lot of situations, against all odds, did whatever it took to come here and get a better life. So when they're here, they're about trying to do whatever it takes to get a better life. They'll work the job that you don't want to work. They'll work three of those jobs at once. I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also that needs to be separated, because people are different, and they can have different motivations and different expectations, and immigrants can be categorized into one group. They can also be split up into two or several, one being the ones who do come here to earn a better life, and another group that may see a way to take advantage of a system and not
Oh,
necessarily
yeah.
earn it, but just to get a better life. And so there is definitely a difference in those
So,
two.
but if that person came here to, say, I lived in McAllen, Texas. Texas. This is it's a border town, South Texas. It's basically Mexico. I lived there for a year or so, and McAllen had the highest rate of Social Security fraud or Medicare fraud. One of those frauds. They led the nation in that. Um, and so, but here's a question: you if you got off your butt in a country that wasn't really working for you to go take advantage of a system that would work for you, are you not motivated?
You are motivated more than the people who stayed behind and didn't work for. You are motivated than some people, and then less motivated than other people, because to take advantage of a system, you are still capped out at a certain point, and
Yes.
maybe that point is more than enough for you, or enough for you. And so yes, those people are more motivated. Now, I would be interested in floating, and this is kind of maybe a side note for later in this episode or another episode, but I think there are other influences that affect who and where and why people are coming over. Maybe it's not even their idea, and there are certain interests that may be pushing people in a certain direction, and selling a dream, which may or may not come true. Uh, so, I mean, that's kind of, I don't know if I explain that in a way that anybody can understand what I just said, but I,
Say it
I, I
again.
just want to say that, like, I always want to keep the other uh, possibilities in mind. I need to rephrase this some way, so let me think about it while you respond.
I think going back to what I was saying with the um, people, it makes me think of like, all right, let's think of this is not quite the best example. It's the example I have, where like if you look at some of your most notorious criminals, um, they're brilliant. Some of them are brilliant and phenomenal leaders. Uh, you can even say like I am obviously against anything that Hitler has to do or has to do with, and Nazis, and we are just by default on opposite sides. But like you can't sit there and say Hitler wasn't a good leader. He freaking he coerced or coerced, whatever that word is, a whole nation. Yeah, a whole nation. So kind of, several, like thousands of degrees removed from that, if somebody came over here and had the motivation to get over here despite all the odds to take advantage of a system, that person, had they channel that energy right, probably is capable of doing a lot of great things or better things, just as a criminal who is super smart. If they just channel that energy right, or if Hitler channeled it differently, you could have done big things and have a much better reputation.
Yeah, I heard somewhere that drive and intelligence are gifts that can be that are actually some of the most dangerous things that you can be in possession of, because while intelligence is great, if used in an immoral way, you have so much leverage because of your intelligence to do bad things. And I think that, I guess, going back to last week's episode of religion, I think somewhere in the book, in the in the Bible, it does talk about that. But I'm not sure, and maybe one day we'll have like some kind of theologist on here to help
That
clear
would be,
some
yeah,
things up for us.
that would be fun.